Hi Willow class. Okay, so for today's maths lesson, to start off, we're going to have a look at rounding. Now, when we are rounding, we are looking on a number line. Those are decimal points. So we are looking on a number line, and the number that we are rounding is always in the middle, okay? And today we're rounding to the nearest whole number. So that means that everything in front of the decimal place is the whole number, and then these are obviously the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. So we don't have any of those when we're rounding to the nearest whole number. So when we look at decimals, we look at the number after the decimal point if we're rounding to the nearest whole number. So even if it has 4 numbers here, we are still looking at only this number, okay? So when we, if you remember, everything in front of that number that we're looking at stays the same, okay? So therefore, the 70 stays the same. And then because we're looking at a whole number, the next whole number above 70 is 71. Okay? And then, like I said, we're looking at this 3. Therefore, does the 3 go up or down? We should all know now that anything below 4 or less goes down, okay? So the 3 would mean that we round down, and therefore our answer is 70. So you just circle it, okay? We've done this before. So it's nice and easy, a nice quick refresher to get your brain warmed up and ready. So let's have a quick look at 49.2. Everything in front of the decimal place, because it's to the nearest whole number, remains the same. So here we have 49. And then what do we have up there? Well done, we have 50. What I'd like you guys now to do is pause the video, look at the point 2. Does that mean you round up or down for the nearest whole number? And circle which one it is. And then have a go at this one whilst the video is paused for me. Off you go. Okay, super. So hopefully we've looked at the 2 and we know that we need to round down. Therefore, our nearest whole number to 49.2 is 49. Okay, the next one, we've got 66.74, okay? Now, if you remember, I said even if it has X amount of digits after the decimal point, it doesn't matter. We still look at this one when we round to the nearest whole number, okay? So everything in front of this stays the same. 66, and then one more than that is 67. That's a noisy car, sorry. Then my 7, am I rounding it up or am I rounding it down? Super, I round it up, and therefore 66.74 to the nearest whole number is 67. What would happen then if I asked you to do it to the nearest 1 decimal place? That means 1 number after the decimal point. Have a think. So we've got 66.74. And now we're looking at this number because we want to round it to the nearest 1 decimal place. Therefore, is it 66.7, because that stays the same? Or what, 0.1 more than that is 66.8. My 4, does it round up or does it round down? It rounds down, super. Therefore, it's 66.7. Well done. Okay, we're going to have a look now today at calculating missing angles. And the lesson objective is really long, I do apologise, but it'll make sense once we get started with it. So our objective is to recognise angles and basically find missing angles, okay? But the way we're going to do that is by looking at when they meet at a point like this, that's the point that they meet at, when they're on a straight line, or when they're vertically opposite, okay? So I've just added that bit in there to make it clear about what we're actually going to be doing today. Now, when we think about angles, we've got a few facts that we have to remember in our head. And yesterday we looked at quadrilaterals and triangles. And for example, a triangle, the angles inside of it add up to 180. Well done if you remembered that. And then you've got, for example, a 4-sided shape like a square, a rectangle, or a kite, anything that's 4-sided, and they add up to 360 degrees, the angles in there, okay? So those are some facts you need to remember, as well as these two here, okay? So when we look at angles on a straight line, this is basically here, okay? An angle on a straight line, which is labelled X, equals 180 degrees, okay? And that is a fact that you just have to remember, all right? So you'll need to know that in 1 second when we come to this question, okay? Then when we have a look here, angles at a point add up to 360. That means that here, all of these two angles together, that one, that one, that one, and that one, have to equal 360 degrees, okay? So remember that fact as well. Now, then when we look at vertically opposite, that means that when lines cross like that, then the angles that are opposite each other, for example, this angle and this angle, they always equal the same. And we have done this at the start of the year. So for example, these two, do I need to do any working out for B, or do I just need to look at the example? Yeah, I just need to look at it. And because it's vertically opposite to that, it must equal the same. Therefore, B equals 110 degrees. Now, if that's 110, that's 110, that's 70, I could work out by taking all of those away from 360, I could calculate the size of that angle, couldn't I? However, I don't need to, again, because it's vertically opposite here. That's why I've colour coded it red and those two green, because they match. So A, therefore, equals 70 degrees. Now, all being well, that should therefore add up to what? Yeah, it should add up to 360. 70 add 70 is 140. Add 110 is 250. Add another 110 is 360 degrees. So we've got the right answer, okay? Just remember as well, if you forgot maybe that vertically opposite are the same, then remember this rule. The angles on a straight line are 180. And this, if we have a look here, is a straight line, isn't it? Therefore, if that is 70, that must be 110, okay? Or for example, this one is a straight line. So let me show you. So if that's 110, then 110 counting up to 180 is 70, okay? So use all of the facts that you know to help us solve these, okay? So, oops, I forgot to write y equals. So let's have a look at this first one. Now, the first fact that we need to know is that I can see a straight line. Therefore, all of these angles together, so from here all the way around, equals 180, yeah? So if I've got 60 already, oh, I don't have the number here, but I can see that symbol, which means that it is a right angle, doesn't it? And if we remember, what does a right angle add up to? What does it equal? It's 90 degrees. So I can write that on my sheet, or I can remember it in my head. So if this one is 60 and this one is 90, then from here to here must mean that 60 add 90, which is 150. So if the green bit adds up to 150, then what do I need here to make 180? From 150, how many do I need to add to get to 180? Let's count up in our tens. 150, 160, 170, 180. So it's 3 tens, which is 30 degrees. So if that's 30, you can then check that it equals 180. 30, 120, 180. It does. Okay? So that's why you need to know this fact. Next one, we've got a triangle here, and this is similar to some of the questions that red and orange group might have. And we've got 2 angles to find. We've got angle A, which is actually outside of the shape. It's a reflex angle. And then I've got to find angle B, okay? Now, this triangle looks like an isosceles triangle, but I can't just assume it does because there's nothing there to tell me it is, okay? So these two look like they would be the same, which they would be if it was isosceles, but let's just double check. If this angle is 34 and this one is 73, the angles in a triangle need to add up to 180. So let's do this, add this, and then see how many more I need to get to 180. So 73, add 34. You can either do it as a written calculation, red and orange group, if that helps. So I'll do that here just to show you. I'll do it in a different colour. 73 and 34. 3 add 4 is 7. 7 tens add 3 tens is 10 tens. So I therefore have the answer 107. Okay. Now to get from 107 to 180, how many do I need? Again, if you want to do a written calculation, you can, okay? Or you would count up to 110, which would be 3. And then from 110 to 180 would be 70. So the answer is 73, okay? So my angle B equals 73. How can we check that? How can we check that angle B is 73? Yes, simply add that and that and that, and it should equal 180. Okay, but now I've got this that I've got to do. Now this is the point, and if you remember, angles that meet at a point always add up to 360. So I've got 34 here, so how many more do I need to get to 360? Well, very simply, we have a written calculation of 360 take away 34, or take away 30 and take away 4. So if I've got 360 and I'm going to take away 30, then that's going to give me 330. Okay? Then if I do 330 take away my 4, you could do that in your head, and that's going to give you 326 degrees. Therefore, angle A equals, 326 degrees. Okay, super duper. So now let's have a look at this one here. We don't know this angle, but we can see that it's opposite to this one. Okay, and what did we say? Angles that are opposite at an intersection like that, which means they cross, are the same. So the size of this is the same as the size of this. Okay, so that's a fact that we need to remember before we can do anything. Otherwise, it would be impossible to actually solve this. Then, what do we know about angles in a triangle? Angles in a triangle add up to 180, not 360, 180. So I'm going to add these together and then see how many more I need to get this. And then this answer is then opposite to this, so I know what A is going to be. All right. So from 50 and 65, work that out. Then work out how many more I need to get to 180, and then tell me what A is. So pause the video and do this for me. Off you go. Okay, well done. So welcome back. 50 add 65, we should all know, will give us 115. So 115 add something equals 180. So you should have then counted up from here or subtracted that away from that and got that answer, which is actually 65. Well done if you got that right. So if this angle here is 65 degrees, it's vertically opposite to this angle, to A. Therefore, angle A is 65 degrees, okay? So these are the sort of problems that you are going to be solving in your learning today. Yes, it is challenging, but have a go. If you only manage to get like a couple of them done and it's taken you a really long time, but you've got it right, then that's fine. Okay, if you are sat there and it's really easy, you're whizzing through it, then keep going and see if you can then set a challenge for somebody else to complete. All right, but it is quite challenging. These are the facts that you need to remember, and that in a triangle they add up to 180, in a quadrilateral they add up to 360 degrees. All right, good luck with your learning. Don't forget today's date gap and lesson objective. All right, and I'll look forward to seeing how you get on. Bye guys.